You're coming with me. Don't move.
No, please, I didn't do anything. Sir, stand down. You're scaring her.
You need to give me that phone right now.
No, but I will put my father on speaker. Ava, is that you? I'm here. Put them on.
I don't feel safe sitting next to her. Victoria Blake didn't whisper it. She projected it. Calm, precise, measured to carry just far enough across the first-class cabin to be heard, but not challenged. The kind of voice that expected agreement without asking for it. The cabin went still. A glass paused halfway to a man's lips. A page stopped turning. Even the low hum of the engines seemed to pull back, like the plane itself was listening. Ava Johnson didn't look up right away. She sat in seat 2A, shoulders relaxed, one hand resting lightly on the tablet in her lap. The screen glowed faintly against her dark hoodie. Lines of code. Tight. Clean. Controlled. Nothing like the air shifting around her. But she felt it. That weight. That familiar, suffocating pressure of being seen before being known. Across the aisle, Victoria adjusted the pearls at her neck. Her fingers moved with practiced elegance, but her jaw was tight. Her eyes stayed on Ava. Not curious, not confused, evaluating, calculating, dismissing. This can't be right, Victoria added, softer now, but sharper. There must be some mistake. She didn't look at Ava when she said it. She looked past her, as if Ava were a misprint on a page that needed correcting. A young flight attendant, Kevin Morales, hesitated near the galley. He had heard enough to understand what was happening. Not everything, just enough. His hand hovered over the service cart, fingers tapping once against the metal before he forced a polite smile and stepped forward. "Ma'am, is there a problem?" he asked. Victoria turned to him slowly, like she had been waiting. "I'm sure you'll want to verify seating assignments," she said, her tone smooth, but edged with something colder. "For security reasons." Kevin's eyes flicked, just for a second, toward Ava. Ava noticed. Everyone noticed. That tiny moment of hesitation. It said more than words ever could. Ava finally lifted her gaze. Her eyes were steady. Dark. Focused. No anger. Not yet. Just awareness. The kind that comes from having lived this moment before. Different room. Same script. "Is there something you need?" she asked. Her voice was even. Controlled. Almost quiet. Victoria's lips pressed into a thin line. She hadn't expected to be addressed directly. "I'm simply asking the crew to do their job," she replied, lifting her chin slightly. "Standards matter." The word standards hung in the air like a verdict. A man in the row behind shifted in his seat, uncomfortable. He cleared his throat, but said nothing. Another passenger glanced down quickly, pretending to read. No one stepped in. They never did. Not at first. Kevin swallowed. "If I could just see your boarding pass, miss." Ava didn't move immediately. Not out of defiance, out of understanding. This wasn't about a piece of paper. It never was. Still, she reached into her bag. Slow, deliberate, pulled it out, held it between two fingers for a brief second before handing it over. Kevin took it, scanning quickly. His shoulders eased. "Seat 2A is correct," he said, a little too fast. Everything checks out. For a moment, it looked like the tension might break. It didn't. Victoria let out a soft laugh. Not amused. Dismissive. A piece of paper doesn't prove anything these days, she said, leaning back into her seat. People get creative. Ava felt it then. Not the words. The shift. From doubt to accusation. From inconvenience to threat. And somewhere deep in the cabin, unseen but already moving, the system began to turn against her. The seat beneath Ava felt softer than it should have, like it didn't belong to her. That was the illusion they always tried to create. Comfort that could be taken back at any moment. Kevin stood there a second too long, still holding her boarding pass, as if waiting for something else to happen. Something to confirm what Victoria had already decided. Across the aisle, Victoria crossed her legs slowly. The fabric of her tailored cream suit didn't wrinkle. It never did. She glanced down at her phone, then back up again, measuring the silence like it was hers to control. "Are we really just going to ignore this?" she said. Not loud, not angry. Worse. Calm. Controlled. The kind of tone that carried authority without raising its volume. Ava felt eyes turning again. Not all at once, one by one. Like lights flicking on in a dark room. Kevin shifted his weight. "Ma'am, I've already confirmed. With respect," Victoria cut in, lifting a single finger. "Not even looking at him now. You confirmed a document, not a situation." That word again. Situation. It landed heavier this time. Ava's fingers tightened slightly around the edge of her tablet. Her thumb brushed the corner unconsciously, grounding herself. The code on the screen blurred for a moment, then snapped back into focus. Patterns. Logic. Systems that made sense. This wasn't one of them. From the front of the cabin, another figure approached. Slower steps, more deliberate. Laura Simmons, senior flight attendant, 40. Composed in a way Kevin wasn't yet. Her eyes moved once across the row, taking everything in without reacting. "What's going on?" Laura asked. Kevin handed her the boarding pass quickly, almost relieved. "Seat is valid. No issue." Laura glanced at it, then at Ava. Their eyes met for a brief second. Something unspoken passed there. Recognition. Not of who Ava was, but of what this was. Laura turned to Victoria. "Ma'am, the passenger is correctly seated. There's no problem here." For a heartbeat, it felt like air returned to the cabin. Then Victoria smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was thin. Controlled. The kind that didn't reach her eyes. "I see," she said. "So we're lowering standards now." A man 2 rows back shifted again. Someone coughed. A woman near the window leaned slightly toward her husband, whispering something that ended with a glance at Ava. Laura didn't react. Not outwardly, but her shoulders tightened just enough to notice. "Standards haven't changed," Laura replied. "Our policy is clear." "Policy," Victoria repeated softly, like the word tasted bitter. She picked up her phone again, tapping the screen with slow, precise movements. "You know, in my experience, policy only matters when it's enforced." Ava felt it coming before it happened. That turn, from implication to action. Victoria lifted the phone to her ear. Not rushing, not dramatic, just inevitable. "Yes," she said after a beat, her voice lowering but still carrying. "I'm on flight 273. First class." A pause, her eyes flicked toward Ava, then away. "There's a situation. A passenger is being confrontational. Ava's head tilted slightly. Not confusion. Recognition. There it was. The script shifting. Kevin froze. Laura's gaze sharpened. Victoria continued, voice now threaded with something new. Not fear. Not quite. Performance. "I don't feel safe," she said. The words dropped like a switch being flipped. Ava heard it. Not just the sentence. The consequence. Around her, the cabin shifted again. Faster this time, more noticeable. A man who had been watching openly now looked away. Another leaned back, creating distance that hadn't existed seconds before. Laura stepped forward. "Ma'am, that's not accurate." Victoria held up her hand without looking at her. "I'm simply reporting what I'm experiencing." Ava exhaled slowly. In. Out. Her heartbeat didn't race. It sharpened. Focused. Across from her, Victoria ended the call with a soft tap of her finger. Then she looked up. And for the first time, their eyes locked fully. Victoria's gaze held no doubt now. Only certainty. Ava saw it clearly. This wasn't about a seat anymore. It never was. And somewhere beyond the cabin door, something was already moving toward them. The air changed before anyone new even stepped into the cabin. It wasn't louder. It wasn't chaotic. It was quieter, lighter, like every breath had to push through something thicker now. Ava could feel it in the way people sat. Straighter, more aware, less comfortable. Victoria didn't speak again. She didn't need to. She had already done the most important part. She had named the threat. Now she just waited. Kevin moved first, but not toward Ava. He drifted back toward the galley, his steps uncertain, his eyes avoiding hers completely now. His shoulders had drawn inward, like he was trying to make himself smaller. Laura stayed. She stood near Ava's seat, posture firm, but her gaze kept flicking toward the front of the plane. Calculating, measuring time, waiting for something she clearly didn't want to arrive. Ava noticed all of it. The way Laura's jaw tightened just slightly. The way her fingers pressed together once, then stilled. The way she stayed close, but not too close. Support with limits. A man in row 3 leaned toward his wife. "What's going on?" he whispered. His wife shook her head, but her eyes stayed on Ava. Not hostile, not kind, just uncertain. That was how it spread. Not anger, doubt. From the aisle seat behind Ava, a younger woman, maybe 19, maybe 20, lifted her phone slowly. Not obvious, just enough to catch what was happening. Her thumb hovered over the screen, then pressed. Recording. Ava saw the reflection in the window beside her. The small movement, the silent decision. Good, she thought. Not relief. Evidence. From the front, the cockpit door opened with a soft mechanical click. Every head turned. A first officer stepped out, exchanging a quick, low conversation with Kevin. Too quiet to hear. But the glance, brief, sharp, toward Ava, said enough. Kevin nodded. Once. Too fast. The officer disappeared back inside. Ava felt the shift tighten again. This was no longer just a passenger complaint. This had moved up. Laura stepped closer now, her voice low, controlled. "Just stay calm," she said, not looking directly at Ava. "We're handling it." Handling it. Ava almost smiled. She had heard that before. Handling it meant delay. It meant containment. It meant minimizing disruption, not truth. Across the aisle, Victoria adjusted her sleeve. Smooth, precise, like nothing was happening at all. But her foot tapped once against the floor, a small rhythmic motion. Impatience. She expected resolution. She expected removal. Ava leaned back slightly in her seat, not relaxed, grounded. Her hand rested flat against her thigh now, fingers still. Her tablet screen had dimmed, the code gone dark. No more distraction. This was the moment. From the rear of the cabin, a man in a navy blazer spoke up quietly. She hasn't done anything. Not loud enough to challenge. Just enough to exist. Victoria didn't even turn her head. "You weren't here when it started," she replied smoothly. The man hesitated, then leaned back. Silence reclaimed the space. Laura's eyes closed for half a second, then opened. Decision made. She turned toward Kevin. "Did you call ground security?" Kevin nodded. "They're sending someone." There it was. Final. Ava's chest rose slowly, then fell. Ground security. Not a conversation. Not a clarification. A removal. The word hung unspoken, but fully understood. The young woman with the phone shifted slightly, adjusting her angle. Her breathing quickened, barely audible. She knew this was about to escalate. Everyone did. Ava's gaze moved once across the cabin, the man with the glass now holding it tightly, the couple pretending not to look. Laura standing firm, but isolated. Kevin near the galley, already retreating in his mind. And Victoria, still, composed, certain. Ava's eyes returned to center. She could hear her father's voice, clear, steady, from years ago. You don't shrink to fit someone else's comfort. Her jaw set just slightly. Outside, through the small oval window, the jet bridge stood locked in place. Ground crew moved in routine patterns, unaware of the shift happening inside. But not for long, because somewhere just beyond that door, authority was already on its way. The door opened with the sharp metallic hiss that cut through the cabin like a blade. Every head turned at once. He stepped in without hesitation. Jason Cole, mid-40s, broad shoulders, close-cropped hair. His posture carried the weight of authority before he even spoke, the kind of presence that didn't ask for attention. It took it. His eyes moved fast. One sweep across first class. Calculating, assessing. They stopped on Victoria. She stood halfway out of her seat now, one hand gripping the armrest, the other gesturing slightly toward Ava without fully pointing. "Officer," she said, her voice suddenly softer, almost fragile. "Thank you for coming." The shift was immediate. Kevin straightened. Laura's shoulders tightened. The passengers leaned back just enough to create space. Ava didn't move. Jason nodded once, acknowledging Victoria, but his gaze had already shifted. To Ava. It settled there. Heavy. Unquestioning. "Ma'am," he said, voice low, controlled. "I'm told there's been a disturbance." Ava held his gaze. Steady. "There hasn't," she replied. No tremor, no hesitation. Just fact. Victoria let out a small breath, almost a laugh, but it carried a sharp edge. That's not how it felt from my side. Jason didn't look at her again. Not yet. He stepped closer into the aisle, closing the distance, each step slow, deliberate, measured. Laura moved in slightly. Not blocking, not confronting, just present. "Officer," she said carefully, "the passenger in seat 2A has a valid ticket." "There's been no disruption." Jason raised a hand. Not aggressively. "But enough. I'll handle this," he said. Laura stopped. The words weren't loud, but they ended her authority instantly. Ava saw it happen, saw the shift. Crew to observer, control to compliance. Jason's attention returned to Ava. His jaw tightened slightly, like he had already reached a conclusion he didn't need to explain. "I need you to gather your things," he said. "You're coming with me." The words landed hard. Not a request, a command. Ava's fingers pressed lightly against the seat, just enough to feel the leather, ground herself. "On what basis?" she asked. The cabin held its breath. Jason blinked once, slow, unimpressed. "You're being reported as disruptive and uncooperative," he replied. "We're not going to debate this." Ava's head tilted slightly. Not in confusion, in disbelief. "I've followed every instruction," she said. "You can ask her." She nodded toward Laura. Jason didn't look. Not even for a second. Victoria shifted in her seat, leaning back now, watching. Her lips curved faintly. Not quite a smile. Satisfaction. Laura stepped forward again. "Officer, I need to be clear. She has not been disruptive." The complaint came from another passenger. Jason turned his head just enough to meet Laura's eyes. "You're not qualified to make that call," he said. The words were quiet, but they cut. Laura's mouth opened slightly, then closed. She stepped back. Ava felt something tighten in her chest. Not fear, not yet. Recognition. This wasn't about facts. It was about narrative, and the narrative had already ready. Written. Jason took another step closer. Now he was standing directly beside her seat. His presence filled the space, blocking light, blocking air. "Stand up," he said. "Short, direct." Ava didn't move. Her heartbeat was louder now. Not racing, heavy. Each pulse deliberate. "No," she said. The word didn't rise. It landed. Solid. A ripple moved through the cabin. Someone inhaled sharply. The young woman with the phone shifted, adjusting her grip, her recording hand trembling just slightly. Jason's face hardened. "You're interfering with a federal directive," he said. "That's a serious offense." His hand moved. Not fast, but enough. It came to rest near his holster, not drawn, not needed, just visible. The message was clear. Ava felt it, the weight of it, the escalation. Her throat tightened for a fraction of a second, then steadied. "You can't remove me from a seat I paid for," she said. "Not without cause." Jason leaned in slightly. Close enough now that his voice didn't need to carry. "Right now," he said, "you are the cause." The words settled into the space between them. Final. Around them, the cabin had gone completely still. No whispers, no movement, just the low hum of the aircraft and the sound of a moment breaking open. Ava looked straight ahead. Not at him, not at Victoria, at nothing, and everything, because she understood now. This wasn't about leaving the seat. It was about being erased from it. Ava could hear her own heartbeat. Not fast. Heavy. Each pulse landing like a clock counting something down. Jason didn't move his hand from his holster. He didn't need to. The threat wasn't in the weapon. It was in the certainty behind it. "Last time," he said. "Stand up." The words came out slower now. Sharper. Like he was done waiting. Ava's fingers curled slightly against the seat. The leather creaked under the pressure. Small. Barely audible. But in the silence, it sounded loud. "No," she said again. Quieter this time. But stronger. A man in the row behind shifted, his knee hitting the seat in front of him. The sound broke the stillness for half a second. Then everything snapped back. Jason's jaw tightened. His eyes darkened. Not with anger, but with something colder. Control slipping. "You're making this worse," he said. Ava finally looked at him again. Direct. Unflinching. "I'm not the one making this anything," she replied. The words landed. Not loud. But they carried. Victoria's smile faded just a fraction. Not gone. Just strained. Her fingers tightened around her phone, the polished edge pressing into her palm. Laura took a step forward. Instinct, not permission. "Officer, please," she said, voice low but urgent. "This is escalating unnecessarily." "We can resolve this without." Jason didn't turn. "Step back," he said. Flat. Final. Laura stopped. Her breath caught for a second. Ava saw it. The moment she chose not to push further. Not because she agreed. Because she understood the line had already been drawn. Kevin stood near the galley, frozen. His hands clasped together too tightly, knuckles pale. His eyes moved between Ava and Jason, then dropped to the floor. He had already stepped out of this. Across the aisle, Victoria adjusted her posture again. Straighter now, composed, watching the scene unfold like it was confirmation of something she had always believed. Ava felt it. That gaze. Not just looking at her. Looking through her. As if this outcome had been inevitable from the moment she sat down. Jason shifted his weight slightly. A small movement, but it brought him closer. Closer than necessary. "You are interfering with a secured flight environment," he said. "If you don't comply, I will remove you by force." Force. The word echoed. Ava's throat tightened for just a second. A flash of something sharp moved through her chest. Not panic. Calculation. She could feel the edges closing in. The narrative tightening around her. Every second she stayed seated made it worse. Not in truth, in perception. That was the trap. Her mind moved fast now. Faster than her pulse. Breaking it down. Step by step. Outcome by outcome. If she stood up, she validated them. If she stayed, she risked everything. Her future, her work, the fellowship waiting on the other side of this flight. All of it balanced on a moment no one else in this cabin would fully understand. Her hand moved. Slowly. Not toward the aisle. Toward her bag. Jason's posture shifted instantly. His shoulders squared, his stance tightening. "Ready. Don't," he said. Ava stopped, looked up at him. "I'm not reaching for anything you need to worry about," she said. "I'm reaching for my phone." The young woman recording from row 3 leaned forward slightly, breath catching. The camera angle adjusted. Focus sharpened. Laura stepped in just enough to be seen. "She's allowed to access her personal items," she said carefully. Jason didn't respond, but he didn't stop her. Ava's fingers closed around her phone. Cool, solid, real. She pulled it out slowly, held it in her palm for a second, then looked back at Jason. "I'm going to make a call," she said. Jason let out a short breath. Not quite a laugh. "You're not under arrest," he said. "You don't get a phone call." Ava's eyes didn't waver. "It's not about rights," she replied. "It's about procedure." Laura seized it instantly. "Company policy allows a passenger being removed to contact someone," she said. "We've done it before." Jason hesitated. Just for a second. Captain Michael Turner appeared at the edge of the aisle, drawn by the tension. His presence added weight to the moment. Authority layered on top of authority. "Let her make the call," he said, 5 minutes. Jason looked at him, then back at Ava. The calculation shifted. Then he stepped back half a pace. 5 minutes, he repeated. Ava nodded once. Her thumb moved across the screen. Contact list, top name. She didn't hesitate. She pressed call. The phone rang. Once, twice, then a voice answered. Calm, steady, familiar. "Ava, I need you to put me on speaker." The voice on the other end didn't rush. It didn't rise. It didn't ask questions yet. It moved with precision, like it already understood the shape of the problem. Ava's grip tightened around the phone for a fraction of a second. Then she tapped the screen. "You're on speaker," she said. The cabin leaned in without moving. Jason's eyes narrowed slightly. Captain Turner stood still, his posture rigid now, attention fully locked on the device in Ava's hand. Laura didn't breathe. Kevin stared. Victoria shifted, just once, her confidence flickering at the edges. "My name is Daniel Johnson," the voice said, filling the cabin. "Calm, controlled. I'm Ava's father. Who am I speaking to?" Jason stepped forward immediately. "This is Federal Air Marshal Jason Cole. Your daughter is being removed for disruptive behavior. This call is over." "No," Daniel said. "One word. Flat. Absolute. This call is just beginning." The silence that followed was heavier than anything before it. Ava didn't move. She kept the phone steady, her arm relaxed, her posture unchanged. But inside something had shifted. Not relief, alignment. Daniel's voice continued. "You are currently attempting to remove a minor from a secured aircraft based on an unverified claim from another passenger. You have ignored the testimony of your own crew. You have escalated a non-existent situation into a federal intervention." Jason's jaw tightened. "Sir, your daughter has been reported as a threat." "My daughter," Daniel cut in, his voice sharpening, "is 18 years old, seated in a ticketed first-class seat, on her way to a research program you are not qualified to comprehend. The only threat on that aircraft right now is procedural failure." A murmur moved through the cabin. Small, contained. But it was there. Captain Turner stepped in. "Mr. Johnson, this is Captain Michael Turner. We are trying to resolve this efficiently, so we can proceed with departure, Captain Turner." Daniel interrupted again, colder now. "You are the final authority on that aircraft. And yet you are allowing a passenger to be targeted, your lead attendant to be overruled, and a federal agent to act without verification. That is not efficiency. That is negligence. The word landed hard. Captain Turner didn't respond. He couldn't. Across the aisle, Victoria's fingers tightened around her phone. Her posture remained straight, but her breathing had changed, shorter, shallower. Jason stepped closer again, trying to reclaim control. "Sir, I suggest you let us handle this internally. I am handling it," Daniel said. Still calm. But now there was steel beneath it. Ava felt it. Everyone did. "Tell me something, Officer Cole," Daniel continued. "Before you made the decision to remove my daughter, did you review the manifest? Did you verify her credentials? Did you consult your lead flight attendant, who has already confirmed her compliance?" Jason didn't answer. He didn't need to. The silence answered for him. Daniel didn't pause. "My company, Sentinel Cyber Defense, holds an active contract with transnational air systems," he said. "We oversee your flight infrastructure, passenger data protocols, and internal security networks. That contract is currently valued at over $3 billion. The air shifted. Not slowly. Instantly. Kevin's head snapped up. Laura's eyes widened. Captain Turner went still. Victoria blinked. Once. Twice. Ava didn't move. She didn't need to. Daniel's voice lowered, almost conversational now. "Which means, Captain, Officer, that what you are doing right now is not just a procedural error. It is a direct violation of a binding agreement tied to federal compliance standards." Jason's hand dropped slightly from his holster. Just slightly. But enough. Captain Turner's face drained of color. His eyes flicked to Ava, then to the phone, then back again. The pieces were falling into place. Too late. "So here's what's going to happen," Daniel said. "No emotion. No hesitation. My daughter stays in her seat. No one speaks to her. No one touches her. This aircraft does not move until I say it does. A beat, heavy, final, or I shut your system down before you ever leave the gate." The words didn't echo. They didn't need to. They settled. And everything in that cabin changed. No one spoke. Not immediately. The silence wasn't confusion anymore. It was impact. The kind that settles into people slowly, forcing them to recalculate everything they thought they understood 30 seconds ago. Jason's hand dropped fully from his holster. He didn't step back, but he stopped moving forward. That alone shifted the entire balance of the aisle. Captain Turner reached for his earpiece, fingers unsteady for the first time since he stepped out of the cockpit. His eyes didn't leave Ava, but he wasn't looking at her the same way anymore. He was seeing something else. Liability. Laura exhaled slowly, almost silently, her shoulders lowering by an inch. Not relief. Recognition. The line had moved, and she knew exactly where it was now. Across the aisle, Victoria's composure cracked. Not dramatically. A twitch in her jaw, a slight tightening around her eyes. The first real sign that something had slipped out of her control. "That's excessive," she said suddenly, her voice thinner than before. "All of this over a misunderstanding." No one responded. Not Jason, not the captain, not even Kevin. Her words didn't land anymore. They floated. Irrelevant. Ava remained still in her seat, the phone steady in her hand. She didn't look at Victoria. She didn't need to. The shift had already happened. Daniel's voice returned, cutting clean through the silence. "Captain Turner, I suggest you check your phone." Turner blinked once, then reached into his jacket. His hand shook slightly as he pulled it out. The screen lit his face in a cold glow. "Incoming call." He answered immediately, stepping half a pace away, though no one could miss the tension in his posture. "Yes, sir," he said. He didn't say anything else. He listened, and with every second his expression changed, from controlled to tight to something close to fear. Jason watched him now, not Ava. Waiting, measuring. Victoria leaned forward slightly, trying to read the room again, but the room had moved past her. She was no longer part of the equation. Turner ended the call slowly, lowered the phone, then turned. Not to Jason, not to Laura. To Ava, his voice, when it came, was different. "Miss Johnson, you will remain seated." The words were formal, but they carried something heavier. Submission. Jason stiffened. "Captain." Turner raised a hand. Not sharply, but firmly enough. "That's an order." The cabin felt it. Authority had shifted. Not loud, not explosive, but absolute. Jason's jaw clenched. For a moment, it looked like he might push back. His stance held, shoulders squared, a man used to being the final decision. Then his eyes flicked to the phone in Ava's hand, to the weight behind the voice still on the line, and something recalculated. Slowly, reluctantly. He stepped back. One step. It was enough. Kevin let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Laura turned slightly, her gaze moving across the cabin, taking in the stunned faces, the phone still recording, the tension breaking apart in real time. Victoria sat frozen, her hands now clasped tightly in her lap, the phone forgotten between her fingers. The certainty that had carried her through the last 20 minutes was gone, replaced by something colder. Consequences. Daniel's voice came one last time, quieter now, but no less sharp. "Good. Now we wait." Ava nodded once, barely visible. "Okay," she said. Simple. Controlled. Final. The call ended. For a moment, no one moved. Then the cabin speaker clicked. Captain Turner's hand hovered over the intercom. His voice followed. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking." A pause, long enough to be felt. "Due to a critical security review, this flight will not be departing." The words landed like a detonation, not loud, but devastating. A ripple surged from the back of the plane. Voices rose, questions, frustration, confusion. But in first class, there was only silence, because everyone there understood exactly what had just happened. A seat had not just been defended, an entire aircraft had been stopped, and at the center of it, Ava Johnson sat quietly in 2A, exactly where she had always belonged. The noise came from the back first. Confused voices, raised tones, the sharp edge of inconvenience spreading through rows that had no idea what had just unfolded. But in first class, no one moved. No one dared. Jason stood in the aisle, no longer imping, just present. His posture had lost its edge. His authority, minutes ago absolute, now sat in the space like something fragile, something already breaking. He cleared his throat once. It sounded louder than it should have. "We're going to need everyone to remain seated," he said, but the words lacked force. They didn't carry any more. No one looked at him. They looked at Ava, or at the empty space around her, or at Victoria. Victoria. She sat frozen, her back still straight out of habit, but her eyes no longer steady. They moved now. Quick. Searching. Trying to find something to hold on to. Control. Narrative. Anything. "This is ridiculous," she said. But her voice didn't match the words. A flight being cancelled over this? There has to be some kind of... "Ma'am." The interruption came from the front. Not loud, but final. A woman in a dark suit stepped into the cabin. Late 40s, sharp posture, eyes that didn't wander. Airport operations. She didn't glance at anyone else. She walked straight to Ava. "Miss Johnson," she said, her tone measured but careful. "I'm Karen Whitaker, station director. I'm here to assist you." The shift was complete. Victoria stopped speaking. Jason didn't move. Captain Turner stepped aside, almost automatically, clearing space. Karen continued. "We have a private lounge prepared for you. Transportation arrangements are being finalized." Ava blinked once. Not surprised, not impressed. Just processing. Laura stepped closer, her voice low. "Your belongings, if you need help, I've got it," Ava said. Her voice was calm again, centered. She reached down, pulling her bag up with steady hands. No rush, no hesitation. The young woman in row 3 lowered her phone slightly, eyes wide now, no longer recording for evidence. Recording history. As Ava stood, the entire cabin shifted again. Not tension this time. Awareness. Kevin moved quickly to the side, giving her space. His eyes met hers for half a second. Apology. Regret. Too late. Ava didn't respond. She stepped into the aisle. Jason moved back without being asked. Another step. More space. He didn't look at her now. He couldn't. Victoria watched her. Really watched her for the first time. Not as a disruption. Not as a problem. As a consequence. "You could have just moved," Victoria said suddenly, her voice thinner, almost defensive now. This didn't have to become all this. Ava stopped. Just for a moment. Turned her head slightly. Not fully. "Enough. I was already where I was supposed to be," she said. Then she kept walking. The words didn't hit hard. They settled. And stayed. Karen guided her toward the exit, her posture protective now, almost deferential. 2 uniformed officers stood near the door, not blocking Ava, but guarding the space around her. Behind them, the jet bridge connected again with a dull mechanical thud. Escape. Or extraction. Depends on who you asked. As Ava reached the door, she didn't look back. Not at Victoria. Not at Jason. Not at the cabin that had turned against her, and then turned back. She stepped out. And the moment she did, something inside the plane collapsed. Jason exhaled sharply, running a hand across his face. His shoulders dropped, the weight of what had just happened settling in. Captain Turner turned away, already reaching for his phone again, his voice low, urgent, as he spoke to someone no one else could hear. Kevin leaned against the galley wall, eyes closed for a second. Laura stayed where she was. Still. Watching the empty seat. 2A. Across the aisle, Victoria's hands began to shake. Just slightly. But enough. She stared at the space Ava had occupied, her reflection faint in the dark window beside it. For the first time, there was no certainty in her expression, only realization. She hadn't defended a standard. She had triggered something far bigger than herself. And now, it was coming back for everything. The terminal felt colder than it should have. Ava sat in a quiet corner of the private lounge, hands wrapped around a cup she hadn't touched. The noise from the main concourse didn't reach this far. Out there, passengers argued, demanded answers, checked their watches. In here, everything moved in low voices and careful steps. Karen Whitaker stood a few feet away, speaking into her phone, her tone tight but controlled. Yes, the aircraft is secured. Yes, she's with us. No further contact from crew. She paused, listening, then nodded once. Understood. Ava watched her without really seeing her. The adrenaline had thinned, leaving something heavier behind. Not relief, not victory. A quiet, steady exhaustion. The door opened. Victoria Blake stepped in, flanked by 2 airport officers. Her composure had been stripped down to something raw. The perfect lines of her suit were still intact, but her face wasn't. Color drained. Eyes searching, unfocused for a second before they landed on Ava. "Miss Johnson," Karen said softly, stepping between them without making it obvious. "You don't have to engage." Ava didn't answer. Victoria took a step forward anyway. "I need to explain," she said, voice tight, breath uneven. This got out of hand. No one responded. Victoria swallowed. "I was concerned. That's all." "I thought—" "You thought what?" Ava asked. Her voice wasn't raised. It didn't need to be. Victoria hesitated. The answer sat there, heavy and obvious, and she couldn't say it. "I thought there was a mistake," she finished, weaker than before. Ava held her gaze. There wasn't. The officers shifted slightly. One of them touched Victoria's elbow, a quiet signal. Time was up. "This is an internal matter now," Karen said. "We'll take your statement." Victoria nodded, but her eyes didn't leave Ava. "I didn't know who you were." Ava's expression didn't change. That wasn't the problem. Victoria opened her mouth, then closed it. There was nothing left to say. They led her out. The door closed. Silence returned. Karen exhaled slowly. "Your jet is being prepped. 30 minutes, maybe less." She glanced at Ava. "Your father asked that your equipment be secured separately. It's already en route." Ava nodded. A few minutes later, Laura Simmons stepped into the lounge. No uniform jacket now, sleeves rolled once, posture still composed but softer at the edges. "I wanted to say I'm sorry," she said. Ava looked up. Laura held her gaze. "I should have pushed harder. I knew what was happening." Ava studied her for a second. "You tried." Laura shook her head slightly. "Not enough." Ava didn't argue. She just nodded once. From the hallway, a man in a dark suit appeared, speaking quickly to Karen. "Legal is on site. Media already has footage. It's spreading fast." Karen's jaw tightened. "Keep them out of the terminal." Too late. On a television mounted in the corner, muted but visible, a headline scrolled across the screen. "First-class dispute grounds, entire flight. Passenger video goes viral. A clip played. Ava in her seat. Jason's hand near his holster. Victoria's voice, sharp and clear. Evidence. Unavoidable. In another room, Jason Cole sat across from a senior supervisor. His badge rested on the table between them. "You didn't verify," the supervisor said. Jason stared at the table. "I responded to a reported threat." "You accepted a narrative," the man corrected. "That's not your job." Jason didn't answer. Across the terminal, Victoria sat in a small office, a legal representative across from her, a file open, pages already filled. "You made a false report that triggered a federal response," the representative said. "Do you understand the liability?" Victoria nodded slowly, hands clasped too tightly. "I didn't mean... It doesn't matter what you meant." Back in the lounge, Ava stood. Karen moved immediately. "We're ready." Ava picked up her bag. No rush. No hesitation. She walked toward the exit. Outside, the tarmac stretched wide under the afternoon light. A sleek jet waited at the far end. Engines quiet. Door open. A different kind of flight. A different kind of silence. As Ava stepped forward, she didn't look back. She didn't need to. Behind her, everything that had tried to move her was now being moved instead. The jet lifted without delay. No announcements. No crowded aisle. No voices asking questions that didn't matter. Just a smooth roll, a quiet acceleration, and then the ground fell away beneath her. Ava sat alone in the wide leather seat, her bag placed neatly beside her. The cabin felt too large for one person, too quiet. Every sound softened, every movement absorbed. She looked out of the window. The airport shrank quickly. The terminal, the grounded aircraft, the long lines of frustrated passengers, all of it reduced to shapes and motion. Distance had a way of doing that. It stripped noise down to meaning. Her reflection appeared faintly in the glass. Same hoodie, same posture, same girl who had walked onto that plane. But something had shifted. Not in how she looked, in what she had seen. Her phone buzzed once on the armrest. A message from her father. "Everything is handled. Proud of you." Ava stared at the screen for a second, then set the phone down. Proud. The word felt complicated, because she knew something now that she hadn't fully understood before. This outcome wasn't normal. It wasn't guaranteed. It wasn't justice. It was leverage. If her last name had been different, if that call hadn't been answered, if no one had been recording. She closed her eyes briefly. The image came back fast. Jason's hand near his holster, Victoria's voice saying she wasn't safe. The way the cabin had turned, not all at once, but enough. She opened her eyes again. Steady, focused. That moment didn't disappear just because she had walked away from it. It stayed. In the system. In the people. In the quiet decisions no one talked about. The jet leveled off. Sunlight cut across the cabin now, sharp and clean. It hit her hands first, warming her fingers where they rested against her knee. She reached for her bag, unzipped it, and pulled out her tablet. The screen lit instantly. Code returned. Lines, structure, logic. Something she could control. Her fingers hovered for a second, then started moving. Not rushed, not emotional, intentional. Because what happened on that plane wasn't just about her. It never was. It was about every person who didn't get the phone call, every moment that didn't get recorded, every voice that didn't get heard. She paused, looked out the window one more time. Clouds now. Endless. Quiet. Then back to the screen. Her hands moved again. Faster. Building something. Not to prove she belonged. To make sure no one had to prove it again. Somewhere far below, systems were already shifting. Policies rewritten. Careers ending. Stories spreading faster than anyone could contain. But up here, there was only one thing that mattered. What came next? Ava didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. She worked. Because real change didn't happen in the moment of confrontation. It happened after, in the choices that followed, in the systems rebuilt, in the voices that refused to disappear. The jet cut clean through the sky, leaving everything behind it in silence. And ahead, there was something new being written. If this story made you feel something real, stay with it. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop 3 words in the comments. Stay strong always.